It's been described as games console gold. The latest in the series of Call of Duty games is released later today.
It's the 7th in the record-breaking series, the latest entitled Black Ops. It asks players to imagine they're fighting behind enemy lines. But as the stakes get higher, are the levels of violence getting higher too? Let's talk to the BBC Technology Reporter Daniel Emery. Morning,
Hello.
Daniel.
Hey.
You had a go at
Yes, it's more of the same, pretty much. I mean, the game that came out last year was absolutely record-breaking in so many ways. I mean, it sold millions and millions of copies and grossed the firm $1 billion revenue. Now, you may remember last year's one had a bit of controversy when you went into an airport and massacred everyone there. They've kind of rolled back from that. They basically don't feel the need this time to really be so controversial because they're going to sell that many. A rival game that came along last month, Medal of Honor, tried to then get the limelight for controversy by letting you play the Taliban, but they got a lot of flack from that, and eventually they rolled back from that as well, and eventually you played as a team called the Opposition that was the Taliban everything but name. This game's going to come out tonight at midnight launches. There'll be about 400 stores across the country opening, and as you said, you play a special forces operative fighting behind enemy lines in China and Russia and Laos and places like that.
What is it about the Call of Duty series that has proved so popular? I mean, on Facebook it's got nearly 1.5 million fans. There are millions of people who enjoy playing it. What is it about Call of Duty specifically?
That's a pretty good question. I mean, certainly it's modern combat. It just seems to have got the recipe right. I mean, Medal of Honor tried to imitate that, but they didn't get nearly as many sales and wasn't nearly as popular. They've just got the recipe right. It seems to have that balance of a realistic plot, very good graphics, the sort of gameplay that people like, which is a first-person shooter where basically you look down the barrel of the gun where you shoot and run around people. It is a very violent game, it's a very graphic game, but that's simply what people like, and it's just hit a chord, basically.
They did, apparently they did roll back from one particular episode of sort of unarmed combat or something like that, where it's felt to be a little bit too realistic. What you're saying is actually maybe slightly milder than the previous edition.
Well, the previous one had a very controversial level. I mean, these sort of games are very visceral, they're very gritty, you know. They try to be as realistic as possible in terms of the combat without obviously the sort of long periods of boredom and tedium that you get if you're actually really serving out there. There's a trade-off. Make it too violent and too horrible, then people will backlash against it. If you don't make it realistic enough, then games kind of feel that it's a bit arcadey and a bit woolly. So it's just finding that magic point, basically.
Do these have a rating, these games? And,
Yeah.
and how do they make sure that people who buy them stick to them?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, generally they're 16s or 18s. I mean, not normally games like this are 18. In theory, if you go to the shop and you're under 18, you're not allowed to buy it, just like video games. But of course, you can download it off the internet, either illegally or if you can buy them legally as well. And you can get credit cards if you're under 18, prepay ones, and often they won't check that. They'll just see it's a credit card, assume you're 18, and you can what's called a digital download, where basically you download it and you pay for it online and you download it onto a computer. So this is an area where there's been a lot of talk about, you know, people who get older games that really they shouldn't.
And a bit like DVDs, once it's bought in someone's house, there's no control really over who.
Well, it's pretty much down to the parents. You know, if you have a young child, you know, you should check what they're playing and see what they're playing. But of course, if the parents are away, it's quite easy just to.
Eight editions. Can this series go on ad infinitum, really?
Pretty much. I mean, I reckon it'll go until people get bored of it. I mean, there's, you know, the games industry is famous for taking a franchise and running it and running it. I mean, there's a football series that's been running called Football Manager that was Championship Manager, and that's been running nearly 20 years, and it's still very, very popular. So, you know, when they get a magic formula, you know, they'll milk it for all it's worth.
I was told it helps with math skills. That was the argument used in my house, Football Manager.
Yes, they're probably right.
Yeah, and they'll be good businessmen because they play so much of it.
Thanks
Thank you very much. Thank you.